his understanding of how the mind works. Philip, please take it away.
Thank you. Thank you very much. When we think about innovation, typically we think about innovating products and innovating services. It's broad, but generally traditional innovation is all about that. Burns has talked about innovating business models. It's another way to innovate. And today I'm going to talk about experiences and why it's important to consider experiences when we think about innovation for growth. In 60 seconds, this is what we think. Thanks. I'm going to talk about experience. What is experience? Why it's important, and what we can do about it. So let's talk about experience a little bit. And I'm not talking about customer experience. I'm not talking about product experience. I'm talking about experience. Experience as humans. Well, we talk about consumers and customers as if they're different. We're all. So, an experience is something that leaves a lasting impression. And as brands, that's what we want to do. We want to leave lasting, positive impressions. We also know that brands are not the most important things in people's lives. We would love that they were, but they're not really. People, relationships, moments, experiences, those are the things that people want. That's what makes us happy. What makes us happy is spending time with people. What makes us happy is spending money on other people. The experience is something that we hold close to us, and it's embedded in our memory, and we seek these experiences out. Now, as a brand, being part of that is a really good way to create a lasting impression. And we're going to speak a lot more about that, but an example, a simple example, was the easiest thing that a brand can do is just be in the right place at the right time. Right? And the stories to illustrate. An avid trail runner. And some years back, my very first big trail run, I was halfway and somebody stepped out halfway mark and handed me an iced tea beverage. Enthusiastically. Here you go. You're halfway. And I'm seriously enthusiastic. And when you are halfway in a trail run, you need someone to say, keep going, here's a beverage. And it stuck with me. I mean, this is 9 years ago, so it stuck with me. Now, the important thing is, that event was my happy experience, not the brand's. And they didn't need to be there. No brand needed to be there. The only brand that had to do a good job was the event organizers. Everybody else was superfluous, essentially. But that brand stuck in my memory. Now, I'm not a big iced tea drinker, but if I have to go and buy iced tea and I walk into the store, the very first thing is I walk up, oh, there it is, and I put it in, and that's that. And that's been going on for many, many years, because it's stuck in my memory, it's part of my memory, and they did, in a very, very small way, make that experience better for me. And that is what experience innovation is about. It is about elevating the experience. Now, that particular iced tea brand could have done a lot more. And that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm not going to tell you what they could have done right now, I may later, but they could have done a lot more. So, what we want to do with experience is create long-lasting signature experiences where your brand is positively associated with that and elevates that experience for people. Right, so that's what an experience is. Why is experience important? 65% of gross domestic product worldwide in 2017 was accounted for by services as a value add. In South Africa, it's 67%. Experience-based services are growing faster than any other kind. And future value is not just in a product and not just in a service. Now, this has implications for manufacturing brands who are now adding services to products or turning products into services. Hilti essentially is an example of that. For service-based companies, you've got to fight off a whole new range of competitors. Manufacturers are now entering into the service component, or find new ways of creating value in your services. How do you go about doing all of that? So experience is important. This is where the world is going. What do we do about it? Well, finding growth is difficult. I like to call this new economy fuzzy and borderless. It's fuzzy and borderless because, first of all, there's been a shift in value. So the experience economy is not new. It's been around for a long time. We always think it's millennials, but it's not, it's everybody. But there is a shift in values. Bern talked about waste and people being conscious about what they consume. We want personalized service. We want it faster. There's a whole shift in values. And as I said, we need to find growth in uncomfortable spaces. When you think about this shift where products are becoming services and services are changing, this is happening because technology is also enabling new things and we can use technology to create new bank services. We can also enhance our products and services with technology. We can change our business models, but we also have competitors who are looking for growth in new space. So the boundaries between categories have become very, very blurred and are shifting all over the place. I mean, really simple examples, and you're probably all aware of these, and there's some you might not be aware of. You know, health, insurance providers are becoming banks, telecoms providers are becoming entertainers, furniture products are becoming tech. The list goes on. Publishing companies who are struggling are now moving into curated tourism, packaging. There's a long list of how this new economy is borderless. Now, the way to tackle this new economy, the first thing you need to do is take a very, very wide view. You need to look beyond your brand and beyond your category. And one way to do that is to think about what happens before someone engages with your brand, what happens when they engage with your brand, and what happens afterwards. And you can do that in a very narrow sense, but you can go wider and wider and wider. If you think about a home loan, we're going to talk about that in a moment. So think wide. But to think wide, you have to start with the customer. Don't put your brand in the center and say, okay, here's my brand, and I'm going to try and think about what happens around the brand. Put your customer or consumer or human in the center and think about what happens, what is their world look like? What are the things that matter to them? What are the things that are wrapped around your product or service or brand? And get into their space. You need to put yourself in their shoes. And then you can begin to understand their world as this ecosystem, which is not just about activities. It's about how we feel, what we think, what we believe, what we value, the things we do, the habits we have, the touch points, the social connections. All of these things form part of my world. And the brand engages with me at different points, for different reasons. We need to understand how these things are connected. Now, if we think about a home loan is, you go to the bank just to get a home loan. But if you're getting a home loan, there are a lot of other things that are happening in your world at that time. You're looking for a new house, or you have been looking for a new house. So if you caught the person before they were applying for the home loan, you can start engaging with them at that point and helping change. Without changing your core product, you can engage with people along their journey, and you can think about, well, what happens when you're looking for a landscaper, perhaps. You need to find new schools, you need to find new doctors, you need to think about travel time, you need to think about a whole host of things that are opportunities for the brand, a bank, to engage. They're an opportunity to help me in the world beyond the bank and the home loan. And you can only do that by understanding the entire ecosystem and what those connections are. These things are best illustrated with examples, so we're going to watch a video. It's about Heineken. I think it's a classic example of experience, of harnessing the power of experience to elevate the brand.
Amsterdam, home of Heineken since 1873, visited by thousands of tourists every single day, and they all kick off their trip with the exact same thing, a beer. As local breweries are getting more popular, we set out to start every guy's trip with the original Amsterdam beer, Heineken. Introducing a damn fresh Heineken, a Heineken freshly brewed for your arrival. We brewed guys visiting Amsterdam their very own Heineken and timed it so that their beer was ready exactly on their day of arrival. Here's how we pulled it off. To find men that had booked a trip to Amsterdam, we used data from travel partners. We checked who was flying to Amsterdam and when, resulting in a short list of people that we could target. Immediately after they booked their trip, we offered to brew them a fresh Heineken for their arrival. Every ad was tailored to their origin and interest. After a simple click, we could start brewing. It takes 28 days to brew a Heineken. So to keep the guys up to date, we connected one-on-one on Facebook Messenger. We sent them the kettle that was being used, updated them when the egg yeast was added, and much, much more. We even asked them what kind of things they'd like to do in Amsterdam. On their day of arrival, their personal Heineken awaited at Heineken's oldest brewery in the centre of Amsterdam. We labelled it with their name and flight data, sealed it with their date of arrival, and to protect the beer from light, we packed it in a special wrapper. a personalised city map with hotspots based on the things they like most in our messenger chat. Surprising the guys not only with the freshest Heineken they've ever tasted, but also with a fully personalised city map. Demand exceeded our campaign capacity in just the first 2 weeks. We engaged with this mobile-first generation for the full 28 days and turned regular visitors into genuine Heineken ambassadors. But above all, we made sure that each of these guys started their trip with the original Amsterdam beer, Heineken.
What's important about this video is that the brand was part of a happy experience. Assuming that traveling to Amsterdam is a happy experience. It would be. Again, the brand did not need to be there for traveling to Amsterdam to be a happy memory for me. But they did what the iced tea brand didn't do as much. They elevated that experience. They made it more memorable. They personalized it. They identified things that I might want to do in Amsterdam and helped me get there. They weren't just in the right place at the right time. They almost owned the journey, and they really left a lasting impression by being part of that experience. So when we think about, again, when we think about innovation is all about finding new ways to do things. So think about innovating the way that you engage with your brand. Using experience as an example. I'm going to run through some other examples. I'm watching my time. Okay. When we think about experience, we often think about activities. Heineken's an example of, there's an activity. I went traveling, but I think the experience has been thought of in many different ways. And in this example, it's also an example of borderlessness, because IKEA is partnering with Envy to create a speaker. Right now, but Envy's, but they're doing it in a way that is creating is it part of your home experience. They're also humanizing tech. They're making it more tactile, and this is happening in tech in many different spheres. Tech is becoming softer. They're thinking about what it feels like to engage with technology. Another example from IKEA. IKEA have this Space 10 lab. They come up with very, very cool stuff. They have this whole thing about mobility, mobile offices, mobile hospitals. There's lots of them out there. But this is an example. They didn't change the product. They did not go and make new furniture. It's not about making furniture. This is about making it easy for me to choose what goes into my home. So I just have the app. There's the chair, and that's what's in it. So I don't make a faux pas in choosing the wrong item. And I'm terrible with interior design, so I have to use this. Again, I didn't change the product. They created an app. It's essentially a service added to a product. It's one of my favorite ones. Amazon created these huge green domes. I can't remember the Japanese word, but who knows what forest bathing is? Anybody? Raise your hand. Forest bathing, no one. Okay, this is not about running around nude in the forest. This is really about walking through forests. The Japanese have this term, and if someone Googles it and shouts it out, it's really cool, deals on it. And they found that just walking in a forest is soothing and relaxing. And Amazon knows this, and so they created spaces for their employees to work in that are green. But imagine a retail space. You found it.
Shinrin-yoku.
Thank you. Shinrin-yoku. Imagine going to a mall which looks like that. I will shop there. I hate malls, sorry. Really do. But if it looked like that, I'd go, and I'd probably just sit and have coffee. I might buy something, which would be a good spin-off. But this is about, again, this is the experience, understanding our humanness and transferring that into the way that we create space. This is another one of my favorites, and I don't think it's available here, but basically, habits have this really interesting, uncomfortable for me service. You send them your DNA, and they send you a tailor-made nutrition plan, just for you. Just for you. Now, that's not all. There's some business model innovation and business model partnerships here as well. Finding the ingredients for my very, very tailored nutrition plan can be quite a mission and a bit of a schlep. So they're partnered with Amazon Fresh. And Amazon Fresh will deliver all the ingredients for your nutrition plan. It's seamless. Plus, they can sync it with your Fitbit or your Garmin or whatever it is that you've got, and it's all one seamless, personalized experience. Freaky, yes. But this is on the disruptive end. So when you think about experiences, you can wrap an experience around the existing product or service, or you can do something completely transformative and disruptive, like having Here's another retail example. I love this one because it is so simple. And why did they not do this before? Canada Goose makes jackets for the cold, right? And they test these jackets. They test them in fridges at minus 25 degrees Celsius. That's what they do. Now, when you go into the store, it's like, oh, nice warm jacket, but what is it? When I go out into the snow, how's it going to feel? So they stuck a fridge in the store. So you can go and test it. Now, imagine if there are two stores selling really warm jackets, or jackets for the cold. This is not changing the product, it's changing my experience in the store, and it's differentiating because I can go, wow, it really is warm. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run around to the other store, grab a jacket, and I'm going to sneak back in, test it. Oh yeah, okay, no, I'll buy the Canada Goose one. No, they won't let you out the other store. Well, you can try, but you won't get far. My last example is Nivea, and this one's really important. It raises a really important point when it comes to innovating around the experience, and that is to make sure that you stick to your brand promise. So Nivea's promise essentially is protecting your loved ones from the sun. And they realized that, and part of it, so they had this really very creative campaign. Sorry. They realized when you go to the beach with your kids in Rio, they did this in Brazil, Rio, masses of people, and it's not a pleasant experience if you're worried about your kids running off all the time. So you put the sunscreen on because that's what's good to protect them, but you're also now worried about them running off. So they created a campaign where there was a magazine campaign, and in the magazine was a bracelet, that bracelet, which you could take out, you wrap it around your child's wrist, and it syncs with an app, and as soon as they go too far, the app goes off and you can track it. Suddenly you don't have to worry about them running off too far and running into the sea because there's an alarm that goes off. Now, it is essentially a brand building campaign. They did not change sunscreen, but they did understand my world at the beach. It's not just about sunscreen, it's about many other things. And so again, they became part of the experience. Now imagine you go to, so let's just step back for a moment, and it's summer holiday and you're off to the beach. So that's a memory that you're going to have. And you will remember that you didn't have to stress about the kids running off. Now they'll come up with some other campaign, I'm sure, but the point is that they're anchored in something that happens in my life that's part of my happy experience. So if you want to leverage the power of experience, you have to find my happy experiences. I'm almost done. So when we think about experience innovation and experience activations, they occur across the spectrum of growth. So we know that you need to spend a lot of time defending your core and expanding your core, securing that core offer, and then you've got to spend some time looking for new products, services, moving into adjacent categories. And then you should spend some time looking at transformative and disruptive future opportunities for growth. The cool thing about innovating experiences, and it's different from activating those, is that it can happen across this entire spectrum. You can start on this end with the Heineken and Collier examples, and you can do something that doesn't really change the product, but it is part of brand building. You can move into the middle and start creating or adding to your existing core offer with something new that has experience embedded in it. And then you can shift all the way to the other side, and you can be transformative. And the transformative innovation and typically includes some form of new business model. Lastly, the one thing that I want you to remember, if you forget everything else I've said today, the one thing that I want you to remember is that experiences endure because they are baked into our memory. And to leverage the power of experience, remember you need to look at a very, very wide view. Be human-centric, customer at the center. Sorry, customer/consumer/human. And then last of all, you need to understand all the elements of their world.